Hey, welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm joined by Jenny. Jenny Berk is an eating psychology coach, culinary nutritionist, and #1 best-selling author of the book The Body Image Blueprint. She helps sensitive and soulful women release chronic stress, restore body confidence, eat consciously, and heal their relationship with food. And today, Jenny and I are going to be chatting about simplifying meal planning. So, Jenny, I would love for you to start off and just kind of tell us how it is that you make meal planning both simple and fun.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me today. And I'm excited to talk about this topic because it's been a bugaboo for me my entire life, especially when I started having kids. I have three daughters who are now teenagers, so they're much more capable. But when I first started this whole meal planning thing, I was completely lost. So there are a couple things, and I'm not a very organized person, so I always use that as an excuse to why I can't do it, or I can't simplify it, or I can't do it consistently. And I think one of the main things here is changing your mindset to as a tool to be able to say, I can do the best that I can. And it doesn't mean I have to abandon it all together and it's okay if it's like a big hot mess at first. But for me, the most important thing is the mise en place. So mise en place, have you heard? I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it could be mise en place. But basically, it's getting all of your tools and all of your ingredients ahead of time organized and ready to go. Now I'm not talking about meal planning. I'm talking about meal prep at this juncture, but in general, to simplify it, you also have to get your mindset correct, and then you have to start organizing so that a lot of the decisions are done in advance. And all that's necessary is to pull out and organize and start to like build your meal kits almost,
Mhm.
which I'll talk about more in a minute. But I think that's one of the main things that I did to simplify was pre-decide. Honestly, the decisions are the hardest part. And if you have worked all day or if you've been with your children all day and 4 o'clock comes around and you have to pick up someone from the train, you're not going to be like, oh, what should I make for dinner tonight? Or like that's not the time to start figuring out what to do because you're already overwhelmed,
Mhm.
you're depleted, you're exhausted. And it's at that point you don't care, or you're like, let's just go to drive through, or let's just get a pizza tonight because I don't know what to do, right? So part of it is simplifying is having a dedicated day where you just make meal decisions. They don't have to be complicated decisions. They don't have to be five-course meals, just an idea. Like, for dinners this week, I'm going to do blah, 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 blah. And knowing that you can be flexible, they can change, you can adapt. So and so has soccer practice, they're not going to be able to come, they don't like that. So actually, let me think about doing the chili instead. So it's being organized, but also being really flexible and making the heavy hitter decisions in advance.
I think this is such good advice because I know, like, I'm someone that actually really does enjoy cooking, but I've never fully embraced meal prepping. I do meal plan because I like to do like one grocery order, one grocery trip a week and not have to make multiple trips. So I found that I had to plan for that. But when it comes to meal prepping, I don't know. I just kind of have like a mental block around it that I need to get over because I know logistically it would help make my life a little simpler because typically on Sundays, we have time at home in the afternoons where I could prep things for the week. And I do find myself doing it sometimes. It's hit or miss, like in the summer months when things get really crazy with my kids' sports. We're doing baseball, we're doing soccer. Where kids are in school and getting out of school, like when things are really busy and I know my time is going to be limited, I will push myself to prep things ahead of time. But I don't know what it is that I have that block for. Um, and I know for me too, sometimes it's hard because my husband is very picky. And then my kids are right now, their ages 8 and younger. So I have my 5-year-old will eat almost anything I put in front of her. She really likes to try new things and she likes a lot of things. My other kids, not so much. So, what tips do you have for planning and prepping when you're trying to also accommodate picky eaters?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I've so been there. First of all, my husband's also a picky eater. Nothing spicy, nothing creamy, nothing, like different, kind of requests. And then my daughter doesn't eat this and that. And I'm plant-based, I'm vegan. So like I always ended up making different meals for myself anyway.
Hmm.
And over like the last couple of years, I was like, wait a minute, why don't I just simplify this by making, you know, a starch or like a grain and some vegetables, and then just swap out the protein. Like instead of, chicken or meat for them, I'll have a veggie burger or I'll have tofu or something like that, so that you're not recreating an entire different meal, but that, you are kind of taking the elements of what each of your family wants or needs and being able to do quick swap outs. So like sometimes the kids like pasta with the sauce and some people like it without the sauce. So like, put the sauce on the side. It's a
Hmm.
simple, easy thing to do. But it definitely takes a little bit of extra planning and work. But I think for picky eaters, what I tend to do is flood the zone. So um, a lot of times it's about a textural issue. Sometimes it's a temperature issue. Sometimes it has to do with layering textures that they don't like or things that are not touching. And what I did is like, I sort of created a list of different like meals that I know how to make. And I did like interviews for my kids. I'm like, would you eat this? Would you eat this? Would you eat this? 5-year-old, it might be harder, and I always make sure I have my main meal that I've planned. And if they don't like it, I've got like cut up peppers. I've got some like leftover pasta from the night before. So they can build a meal from that without me having to make like 5 different meals.
Hmm. Oh, that's so good because I try to do the same thing. Like I try to have some type of alternative that is easy for me, but something I know that they'll like. Like honestly, that sometimes that's peanut butter and jellies in my house because all my kids
Yeah.
pretty much eat those, and it's like you can put that together in just a second. And I like to do that because I don't like to limit what me or my husband are going to eat to only their food choices. Like we like to enjoy foods that they don't like. And I don't want to cut those out of our diet also. So sometimes I have found that I did just kind of have to accept like my kids are not going to eat this and that's okay. I can offer it to them. I can encourage them to try it, but I'm not going to make it a fight. And then I'm going to have an alternative ready for them. And I just kind of let go of, I think sometimes people do sort of force the idea of like, well, you should be making or encouraging your kids to eat what you're eating. And it's like, yeah, and I do encourage it, but at the same time, it's easier for me if I don't fight with them about it, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And I have to say, having older kids, I have had situations where I thought they loved like sweet potato. I'm like, here's the sweet potato. And they're like, I don't like sweet potato anymore. I'm like, why? When did that happen?
Hmm.
And conversely, like foods that I never thought they would ever eat, they're now like, where's the sushi? Like, why can't we get sushi? And so like you have to remember that your kids are just as your taste buds change and your palate changes, so do theirs. And I think it was in one of those childhood nutrition books that I've read, but like offering something like at least 7 times in different ways and keep just putting it out there for them, letting them make the decision to whether or not they want to taste it. And over time, a lot of times they will be like, you know what? I'll try this now. It's just the
Hmm.
right combo of like, the day, the time, the mood they're in, and all of a sudden they have a new like food that they're willing to have. So don't give up if you think they don't like certain things, and don't get too excited if you think they love something and then all of a sudden they're like, no, I'm not eating this anymore.
Yeah.
You have to be flexible.
I don't want to totally sidetrack us, but I will say this for just a second. I have my son has some like sensory preferences, I guess you could say. And we've had a really hard time getting him to eat new foods. He has like a very limited list of things that he will eat. And he goes to occupational therapy. And for those of you that might not know, that's something that they can assist with sometimes is feeding therapy. And he doesn't go to them for feeding therapy. But I was just in conversation with her one day and she was like, I'm going to print you off a list. It's a resource that we give to parents that are trying to work through these things with their kids. And she said, it's all of the steps of how you like introduce and continue to introduce a new food. And I was so like just fascinated with the list. I wish I could remember all of it off the top of my head, but I can't. But it wasn't only like keep putting it on their plate. It was steps like, yes, have it on their plate, but just like one day encourage them to touch it.
Hmm.
One day encourage them to just like put it in their mouth. They don't have to swallow it, they don't have to eat it, but just like put it to their lips, then put it in their mouth. I mean, it was very fascinating. And I thought you know, that's really interesting. So we're trying to like incorporate some of those things now for my son. So,
And that's very common too. And I've actually worked with some teenagers with RFID,
uh-huh.
um, and which is I don't know I know the acronym. I don't know exactly what it stands for, but it's the picky eater, but too extreme, right? And a lot of times it does have to do with the sensory aspect, the texture, and the being a little wary of certain tastes or
Mhm.
flavors. And one of the things that I've done in addition is introduce mindful eating as a concept, because if you are allowing yourself to be in your body, even a child, through your breath, through some embodiment, and you can really get a sense of like what it is that you really dislike, then maybe over time they can make the connection like, oh, it's slimy foods. I don't like any slimy foods.
Mhm.
Or maybe they can make the connection like, oh, it's just when something's hot, I can't eat it. I need it to be room temperature. And so you get to know that child, and you get to know like you said, like slowly start to integrate different sensory elements until it's their decision and they're like, it's on their terms.
Yeah. Yeah. And I found, I mean, that is, like you said, it has to be their idea, their decision. So, well, bringing us back to meal planning. For people that feel like meal planning and meal prepping is overwhelming, and kind of like a big undertaking, what do you tell people that kind of have that mindset?
It is overwhelming. And, because it never ends. Because I've been here, I've been a mom for 20 years now, and I'm still in it. I'm still thinking of ways to cut corners and ways to make it easier. The things that have really helped me is making the environment really fun. So I'm a very sensory person too. I have ADHD and I'm like very disorganized. And I hate chopping vegetables. I hate prep. I hate any like repetitive
Uh-huh.
things. I'm like, get so bored. So one of the things that's really helped me is having like really like dance music, or like at this point, the kids aren't in the kitchen like while I'm cooking anymore, but like, or listening to a book on tape or listening to a podcast just engages my brain as you're doing the repetitive tasks so that it doesn't feel as boring or overwhelming or whatever. Another thing that I started doing in 2016, which is, I don't, it depends on, what you're able to do, but I love doing meal kit delivery services. So I actually use Purple Carrot, which is a vegan meal kit delivery service, but they have ones now that you can even get like 3 days a week and that the meals are already prepped. Another thing I like to do to make it easier is to buy pre-cut things. So
Hmm.
sometimes like it's enough for me like to say, I can't chop an onion. I just can't do it today. Like I'm too tired, I'm too overwhelmed. But if you open your fridge and you've got some cut up, onions and garlic and things that are already there, and you just have to toss it into the pan, like somehow it reduces friction in your mind. And that when you reduce friction or you reduce decisions, you are also going to be more motivated and you're going to be able to do the task because some of that friction is gone. And it gives you more agency, like, oh, I actually can do this. And so another thing that I do is sometimes I will do I'll make two or three condiments during the week. It could be like a pesto, it could be like, something else. And I just swap out the condiments for different vegetables and grains and proteins throughout the week. So you have like certain flavor profiles that you have decided on, and you just make a big vat of it and have it throughout the week. For lunches too, sometimes I'll make a hummus, I'll make a couple of bean dips or something like that, have them for dipping vegetables in. So making the environment really fun, like I used to put my baby or my toddler in their high chair and like with like a pad of paper and like yes, it's crazy and chaotic, and people are going to cry, and you're going to feel overwhelmed and stressed. But if you do a few things just to make it fun and to have a better attitude about it, like I love the music, I love like just, having, maybe if you want a calm area, you can like put some candles out and have the room smell nice. Just anything to make it more pleasant for you. I feel like it really does, it makes a huge difference for me.
Yeah, I love that. Such good ideas. Okay, last question I think that I have for you is what would be your favorite tools for mindful meal planning?
Yeah, so definitely getting the right containers. So make for me, mason jars are my best friend. I make salad dressings in mason jars, put it in the fridge. I pre-make smoothies and put them in there. You can do mason jar salads where you put like the crunchy stuff on the bottom and then, sorry, you put the softer stuff on the bottom, then you build it to the crunchier, and then you put your dressing at the end. And sometimes you can make like 5 different types of salads, put them in the fridge, and you've got a lunch every day. It's not, this is for the moms more, but the kids, you're having like little containers that they can pull on and off and that they can sort of help with, I find is so, so helpful as a tool. Like having them bang on, pots and pans or like a ladle, or having them involved, the kids involved with the sensory process of
Mhm.
it. And even like tasting certain things along the way gives them that sense of like, oh, I'm really part of this and this will be easier. And I see that as a tool, that you can't necessarily not have your kids in the kitchen with you while you're cooking and prepping, but you can make it so that it's doable. Um, and there are times when I've been like carrying a baby in one hand and stirring a pot in another. I'm sure you guys can all relate to this. Um, but really, I think it has to do with your attitude. It has to do with getting the right, tools to put things away in an organized way. I prefer like glass jars and glass containers and things like that. And last thing I'll say, the tool that I love the most is my Vitamix. I love my Vitamix so much because I can whip up smoothies, I can make soups, I can make all the condiments and sauces in there. You can even make flours, you can make your own milk. Like I make almond milk in there sometimes. So it's just another tool that like allows you to make so many different things in so many different ways.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I know my 5-year-old and 3-year-old are very much in their I want to help you stage, and they love to be in the kitchen with me. They love to help stir something, pour something. And I really do feel like for my 5-year-old, it has helped her to try new things because if she, like you said, if she feels like she's helped with it, she like has some ownership over it, and she's much more likely to try it. Even if she doesn't like it, she's much more likely to try it than if before when she wasn't in the kitchen with me. So definitely getting the kids involved is a great tip. And yeah, sometimes it makes things take a little longer or they might be a little messier, but it's also, I mean, that's just memories, more memories you're building with your kids. They enjoy it and it makes them feel important and like they're really helping you. And that's so good for their little self-esteem. So I love that.
Oh, it's so true. They feel so good. And just fast forward for your audience who maybe has young kids, and for you, my kids are now 20, 18, and 14. And I've done the same things, and they all cook now. They
Mhm.
sometimes cook meals for the whole family. I never thought I would get to that point, but my daughter makes lasagna. She makes pasta with meat sauce. Like, so these efforts that you're putting in now to help them help and like get them right in there with you in the kitchen is really valuable for later on.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I can remember my first like meal that I would cook at home for our family was spaghetti with meat sauce. And I think I started doing that, late in middle school. So it's like it's not that far off, really. It doesn't take that long to get there. And so yeah, all this time you're investing now is going to help you out later, hopefully.
That's right. That's right.
All right, Jenny, can you I know you have a resource that I'm going to be linking in the show notes to share with everybody. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I love this resource. I spent a long time making it, just over a couple of months. And it's a database full of recipes on, it's a Notion template that you can, duplicate. And what makes it special is like, well, first of all, there's so many recipes, over 500, but you can categorize and sort them by different things, such as health benefit or ease of use or flavor profile. Like sometimes you just want something salty, sweet, or you want something savory. You can actually categorize, like, show me all the savory meals, show me all the meals that have high fiber, show me all the meals that are super, super easy to make. then you can filter those out and have your and kind of cultivate your own list based on what your needs are for that particular day. And then along with it, there's a weekly meal planning spreadsheet template rather, and you can plug and play and just put in whatever recipes you're going to make for the week right into that template. And it just allows you to simplify it and to make the decisions. The decisions are the hardest part. But if you can break it down to like, okay, I need something that's high in fiber, that is a little bit sweet and tangy. I need something, that has this ingredient or that ingredient, and and are able to filter it. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool. So I hope you guys use it and love it, and let me know what you think.
Gosh, that sounds incredible. I hope everybody goes and downloads that because I mean, that's awesome. And
Thank
then,
you.
Jenny, tell us where everybody can come and hang out with you online to learn more from you.
Yes, thank you so much. I have been spending a lot of time on Substack. So I actually have my own Substack called Just One More Bite with Jenny Berk. And I have a free subscription option. I have a paid option where we get into more depth, but we're looking really at stress and resiliency. I work a lot with sensory outputs, so how to eat mindfully and intuitively, and meal plan mindfully, and bring joy to the eating process, and to like really get to understand your body and your hunger and satiety cues. So that's what we do over there.
Awesome. Okay, well, we'll make sure to get all that linked for everybody. Jenny, thank you again so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. And I hope that everybody has a great rest of their week.